gonna turn my music down just a little bit.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let's try that, and we're gonna start it off. There we go. Huh? Look at that. That was public, right? I should be. Please, God, let it be public. Oh, hell yeah, we are. We got it. Nice. All right, so let's just share it. Copy link. Sick nasty. Oh, let's do this.
Okay, my end should be all good. How do I... Oh, this is ridiculous. Okay. So I'm trying to attach a link in a snap here. Okay.
All right, I've got my link. I hit the little clip, the paper clip. I paste it, and it, like, okay. So what do I do from there? Like, I click on it, and it tells me to go. This is dumb. Copy link. Okay. In Snapchat. All right. Take my picture. Okay. Okay, there we go. Attach the snap. There we go. Okay, cool. Got that one out, so that's sweet. Oh, Jack, I drilled a hole yesterday in my in my kitchen floor.
Lovely.
What do you know about drilling holes?
Not a whole lot.
Oh.
Have not done it much unless it's in a wall.
To be fair, the hole was already there. I just had to make it larger. So.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Otherwise, yeah. So, shoot. Let's get our next song going here, huh? All right. Got a few more links here to throw out. Links upon links upon links. Are you still sore?
Extremely.
Good God, yeah, it's brutal.
The ribs area and the back are not feeling great.
Yeah. So I decided to try and block Kevin when he was rushing Al one time.
Yeah.
Tweaked my ankle that had the Achilles surgery, and it has been stiff as a mofo for the last 2.5 days. So it doesn't feel great.
That is not the best.
So, but it was still fun overall. I had a great time actually. Did you have any frost-bitten extremities? Fingers, toes?
It felt like it. I just felt like I was cold the whole rest of the day.
Correct.
Yeah, my hands are not doing well, but I ditched the gloves about halfway through the second game because I was just not getting any stickiness. So.
Yikes. Oh boy. Let's go to our next song here.
How's it going here?
Good. I think I just finished my last link. Here. Cool. All right, we are in. Oh boy. Let's pull. Ew. Where are we sitting at? About 10 minutes? That's not bad. What do you know about HTML coding?
I'm asking the wrong guy.
Well, you better learn, buddy.
Are we ready to get this started, or what are you working on?
Yep. Yep, I got my notes up here, getting my slides set on my screen, so get this thing to go off without a hitch. Let's see if that happens. Okay, that's up. Over. I'm going to mute you, and we're going to get this thing rolling.
Okay. I also need to be in Grid Fam.
Oh, damn it. Oh. Well, you know what? Pull that up. You should have told me this like 20 minutes ago. Yikes. All right, go. That's super sweet. Calls, accept. It's Jack from State Farm. Sick.
Mm-hmm. You know it.
Yeah. All right. You are on stream. Okay.
Woo-hoo.
All right. I'm muting you.
Okay.
Is that audio coming from? Okay. Ugh. Welcome in, everybody. Jack, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Very, very sore still. I feel old.
Yeah, you feel old?
Football this week.
Yeah. We'll get into all of that here in literally just a second. I just wanted to welcome everybody into the Victorious POD. We are a fantasy football live stream and a podcast. I'm joined here with my buddy Jack, and I see that he's already getting into it in the chat, which is fantastic. We here are going to be talking about everything football related in NFL Week 12 and fantasy. Jack, first off, like you alluded to just a second ago, we had our annual Turkey Bowl on Thursday, 8 a.m. in a northwest suburban town of Minneapolis. And it was 12 degrees outside when we started playing football. How you feeling about that?
Not loving it, especially when the wind chill made it 0. So that was not ideal.
That's a fact.
We didn't have snow for one of the first years, which was, I guess nice. But yeah, it's a lot. It takes like a good, 3-4 days for your body to recover after that. So feeling it right now.
Yeah, that is indeed true. Are you ready for like a 4-hour marathon podcast day? Because you told me you have like literally you're wide open all day. So are you ready for the Megalodon podcast?
Oh, hard pass. I'm ready for about a 4-hour nap today after the podcast is over, maybe. But I don't know if I have enough content and good takes to fill up 4 hours. That'd be pretty brutal.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I could just drone on for hours. I mean, you know that. I just talk about nothing, absolute nothing. But we here we would like to thank both of Jack and I would like to thank everybody here for checking out our live stream, checking out our podcast. You can find us here normally every Thursday on YouTube, and then you can also check us out on all of our podcast apps, which I will say, I know we have been a little behind, but I have done a lot of work in getting that stuff updated. I'm hoping by the end of this weekend, we'll be all caught up on our podcast app. So I apologize to those who love listening on the podcast app and not having to drone on here to YouTube. But nonetheless, you can always find the latest episode on our YouTube channel here, and we will be streaming weekly. We would like to give a shout out to all of our donors out there for helping us. Thank you very much. You guys are helping our cause and making this the best podcast that we could ever hope it to be. We'd also like to thank Levi Oki. He designed all of our beautiful artwork that you see. If you want to check him out, you can go see all of his work on Instagram at Levi Oki Illustration. That's at Levi Oki Illustration on Instagram. I don't think I have anything else. Join the Discord. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Al, I see that you did post a question in the chat, and we will get into that in a little bit. But first, we want to move into our NFL segment here. And essentially, that's going to be just our pick'em right now. Unless, Jack, do you have anything that you would like to comment on about Thursday's NFL games?
I feel like overall it was kind of gross. I mean, obviously we expected the Bears and Lions game to be not super pretty, but Saints really did nothing in their game. I was a little disappointed. I expected the Bills to win, but I thought the Saints would, put up more than 6 points. Surprisingly, the Raiders-Cowboys game gave kind of the best excitement in the middle of the day. So, I mean, I'm glad we had 3 different games spread out throughout. But, yeah, I mean, kind of all teams that I expected to do well fell a little bit flatter. Raiders were a surprising win, so I mean maybe they might end up being like a playoff contender, but Cowboys just can't figure it out. I mean, one week they look dynamic, and then the next week they can't put up any points. So I don't really know what to do with them heading towards the playoffs here. That's, I guess, my 2 cents.
Okay, all right. Do you want to slide into our next segment here real quick, which would be the NFL Pick'em? Let me just back up real quick. I wasn't able to watch any football on Thursday. That's a big boo. Like, I mean, I just F's in the chat for Walters on that one, because that is awful. But so I literally don't have any. I can't come up with really any opinions about any of that right now. But sorry about that. Otherwise, I would definitely piggyback off of any of those opinions. So I'll just have to trust you on that. So, but let's roll into our NFL pick'em here. So why don't you start us off with that?
Yeah. Let's see. So coming off last week, we had quick little recaps here. I picked the Dolphins over the Jets. I was correct. You picked the Raiders over the Bengals. Incorrect. Connor picked the Patriots over the Falcons and was correct. Alex, with the spicy pick of the Vikings over Green Bay, ended up being correct, which meant that Justin picking Green Bay over Minnesota was wrong. Foster picked the Bills over the Colts, which was an upset, incorrectly. Garlic picked the Panthers over Washington football team, once again taking down whatever team he picks, so he was incorrect. Brandon picked the Patriots over the Falcons, correct. And Luke matched me with the Dolphins over the Jets correctly. Also, Jared picked Tennessee over Houston last week. So, running into this week, I'll rattle off all the rest of ours and let you talk about yours. But I am going with Seattle in a bounce-back game over the Washington football team, who squeaked by a win last week. We have Connor going with the Eagles over the Giants. Going to be a popular pick this week because Alex also took the Eagles over the Giants. We then have Foster taking the Patriots over the Titans. We have Garlic taking Green Bay over the Rams. Hopefully he's picking them to make them lose, because everybody he picks falls flat. Brandon is taking the Falcons over Jacksonville. Luke is taking the Rams over Green Bay. Justin is taking the Vikings over San Francisco. And Jared is the third member of the Eagles over the Giants crew.
I wonder if everybody just got together and decided, hey, we're all going to pick Philly this week. Like, it's a
good option. Anyone who's playing the Giants should probably have a good safe bet. I wouldn't say a lock. I mean, Hurts kind of has his up and down weeks, but I mean the Giants can't figure anything out. So I think it's about as safe a pick as any on this week's slate, especially with most of us not picking any Thursday matchups. So
I was the only one who picked a Thursday matchup because I got my pick in time. I picked Chicago over Detroit. I saw zero part of that game, and I have nothing to say about it. So there's that. So I've already got mine selected correctly. So I will have 6 points going into next week. So You can see our fancy little leaderboard that we have there on the side, and Garlic sitting close to the bottom. So that is perfect. All right. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to really get into that. So I think what we're going to do next here is we are going to slide into our swimming upstream. And Jack, how did we do last week?
So last week I went with Tua. I mean, he didn't dominate by any means, but he had 17.5 points. So a little better than some recent weeks we had. Going up against the Jets, I was kind of hoping for more, so to speak, but he did all right. We had a couple of other options that would have been a little bit better, but he's, all things considered, he survived. So
I thought he did well. I think if I remember right, I think I might have picked Justin Fields for that game, and I don't believe it turned out great for me. I mean,
no, no, it did not.
3.46. So not a great choice there. Looking at the Week 11 top 12 quarterbacks, we did have Justin Erbert, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton, and our boy Kirk Cousins coming in at the top 5 quarterbacks of the week. Looking at it, looking over in the next box, we have our free agent top 12 quarterbacks. That would be Trevor Siemian, Taylor Heineke, Ben Roethlisberger, Colt McCoy, Joe Flacco, and then there's our guy Tua sitting there at 17.5 points. On the season long right now, and so when I did these numbers, I just want people to know, since I did them yesterday, I did not include their games. So if they've played, I've minus their total so that it just is an accurate representation. All those scores will be included next week. This season long quarterback top 12 right now, as it's looking top 5, you got Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert sitting at your top 5. Jack, looking at week 12 here, I see Taylor Heineke, Teddy Bridgewater, Zach Wilson's coming back. Are you going to go back to the well with Tua? Are you going to start Matt Ryan again? What is your pick for this week? And Jack is actually gone.
I'm still here. I'm coming back.
Okay. All right.
No chance will I ever start Matt Ryan again. I'll tell you that.
Never? Not once?
Not even if there's a fire.
Not even if there's a fire. Like in all of the stadiums except for the Falcons Stadium, or what?
No, I mean, at this point, the Falcons Stadium might as well be on fire because the Falcons have looked terrible.
That is a fact.
But no, I'm not going to try to start Matt Ryan if I have the option to. I mean, they're still trying to figure out how to use Pitts. Cordero's more of a running back than a receiver this year. With Calvin Ridley being out, I mean, they really don't have any other options that make me feel like they're a threat. So avoiding him when I can. Looking at the slate this week, though, there's not a whole lot of good options. I mean, obviously, we're in the playoff push. People are planning ahead, picking up quarterbacks that maybe have a good couple of matchups coming up here. So there's not a lot, at least in our crew, our league at least. So I am going to be going with a super ugly, gross pick of Taylor Heineke going against the Seattle Seahawks this week. He's projected 17. The Seahawks do not have a good defense. He doesn't have a huge ceiling upside, but I think he should be able to at least, be throwing from behind or playing from behind if the Seahawks can put up points. So I'm hoping for that 200 to 250 touchdown or 250 yard range, maybe a couple of touchdowns. I mean, if he can get me 16 plus, I'll be happy. But I mean, I don't want Bridgewater over the Chargers. Big Ben has one good week on the year. Zach Wilson's coming back this week. Yippee. Baker Mayfield plays the Ravens. I mean, everybody just either is in a bad matchup or doesn't have a whole lot of upside. So, I mean, Heineke feels somewhat safe this week. So I'm praying to God he can get a handful of points and at least not lose you a week, so to speak.
I think it'll be actually a really good game. I know a few people are, including myself, are hoping that Russell Wilson comes back and has a game, because the Seahawks have just looked terrible. So, you put Taylor Heineke in the right game script and you get him chucking the ball. He's got Logan Thomas coming back, I believe, if he's still he hasn't been ruled out. So, hopefully
that would be a big help.
Taylor Heineke can do just some work. Catching up on chat real quick, I want to apologize to Garlic Johnson about my stream bot. I have tried looking at it. I'm gonna actually need to talk to somebody about it, see if I can get it to chill out. Alex wants to know if we are winning anything in the NFL Pick'em. I haven't said anything about winning a prize. I don't know. Maybe you can come on the pod and hang out with us. I don't know. We'll figure it out, Al.
That's what you have to do if you lose.
Oh, if you lose,
you have to sub in and talk football for 20, 30 minutes.
I think that'd be actually pretty fun. So, all right. We are going to be sliding into our next segment here, which is going to be the Streamers Showdown Challenge. It's a little bit of a name change that we had from last week. Jack came up with this. It was a lot better than what I had. Mine was the Stream Team. The Streamer Showdown is a lot better. We looking at week 11. Jack absolutely destroyed me, 74.12 to my 56.18. These are all players that had 65% eligibility or less in across all ESPN leagues. And my highlight player was Bryan Edwards, who put up a goose egg. So, and then you had Tua going, and you had Darnell Mooney, which had 20 points. So that was a great showing for you. Moving on into this week, Jack, who do you have going here? I have it up on the screen, but why don't you tell me a little bit about your team this week?
Yeah, you want me to just go through everybody, or are we doing the back and forth?
Just pick a highlight, whatever you want to do. I don't care. Just
all right. Well, obviously we already had Darnell Mooney going again, but I'm doubling down on him. The fact that he's 65% or under when he's been the alpha number one wide receiver for the Bears this year is crazy to me. I am also looking big time at Pat Freiermuth at tight end. I think he's a good value, especially because Ebron's been ruled out for the next couple of weeks at least. So I think, anytime a tight end is on the waivers, that is the clear unquestioned starter is good. I mean, if you can pick him up in a pinch, it's a great fit. Probably the biggest keys on my team this week, though, are Cam Newton at quarterback. I think just with the rushing upside, you saw what he could do last week. I mean, he moved the ball through the air decently, and he was running as much as he used to. So him and CMC being able to coexist in the offense is key. If he can get some rushing work, he's a great value. And I expect his owned percent amount to be climbing a little higher as the playoffs get closer. And then Devonta Freeman, who it's not pretty. I mean, I'm starting two running backs that seemed like they were good half a decade ago, in Devonta Freeman and David Johnson, but they both seem to be the number one guys. Freeman is getting a lot of work in the Ravens offense. And I mean, with Lamar always being a threat, defenses have to key on him. So Freeman seems like he's getting some open running lanes. So I expect like those to be guys that I could pick up in like a regular league as like a spot start, even besides just this whole streamer challenge. So I don't hate the team considering who I was able to get.
Right on. Just to note, when you make your team, whether you put it in the spreadsheet or if you just make it on a list like you did last time, if you can just try and add in the roster percentage, because from the time that you sent me it to the time that I inputted it, some of those numbers were over 65, but I mean, so those numbers are constantly fluctuating. So just type it in when you put it. So sweet. Moving on to my team real quick. I mean, I got Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm really so I know that there's probably better options out there. Like I'm sure Taylor Heineke has probably a better floor than what Jimmy Garoppolo has this week, but I feel like the ceiling, because of the talent around him, it just gives him that. I just think that it might give him a little bit higher ceiling. I really like that George Kittle's come back to form. He's got Debo, and Brandon Ayuk has been stepping up lately. And I mentioned Debo; he's just been an absolute stud. I took the other running back on the Houston Texans, Rex Burkhead. We'll see if he has a big breakout performance. I would say David Johnson's floor is higher, but Rex Burkhead again has the higher ceiling, in my opinion. I'm not going to reiterate Devonta Freeman. We both have Darnell Mooney. Elijah Moore, it scares me a little bit with Zach Wilson coming back. We'll see what happens, but hopefully Elijah Moore just continues to ascend like he has in the last month. Logan Thomas is back, and I picked Traquan Smith as my flex, and he did not do as well as I'd hoped. Next week, we will most likely not be seeing Devonta Freeman, Darnell Mooney, or Elijah Moore on our rosters, because they will most likely be over 65% rostered. So we'll see how it goes. Jack, you're currently winning right now, but let's see if we can make this a close match this week. All right.
I don't like that plan. Let's keep it not close.
All right. We are going to be moving on into our next segment, which is the tailgate zone, actually. So I'm actually going to back out of this here. And Jack, what do we have going on for our Discord questions? Do we have any Discord questions to answer?
Yes, we did have one this week. We had one from Audio Al himself, actually.
Nice.
Where I'm sorry, no, it was Garlic. Garlic was this week.
Okay.
Garlic, I'm so sorry because I know you're listening live and you're probably just yelling out loud in your room right now. Garlic was on the topic of the fantasy football playoffs, which we're all kind of in the playoff hunt, whether it's starting in 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. But he wanted to know, I'll toss it out to you and you can kind of give your insight on this and I'll add a couple of cents after the fact. But he wanted to know, how often do you stick to your studs no matter what? And how often do you try to big brain and play the matchups with former waiver wire guys? It's like once you hit the playoffs, not necessarily these couple of weeks. He also wants to let it be known if he hears us say it depends for 10 minutes straight or anything that's, dependent on situations, he will be an unsatisfied customer and our Yelp page will reflect it.
Oh, no, not the Yelp page.
Yes. Heaven forbid.
All right. First off, this segment is brought to you by Taster's Choice Instant Coffee. Not only do I love a good beer, but I love good coffee. So Caribou, if you're listening, definitely would love a sponsorship. So I just want to start off with that very important part of the tailgate zone. So Garlic, I don't want to say it depends at all. I really don't.
You just did it.
I know, and I'm not going to. I'm starting my studs. If you have a guy on your team who you drafted in the late rounds, but has had a dry patch in the last couple weeks, that potential for that player, I feel, is way higher. So unless he is injured or if he is trending downward due to injury, I am definitely playing my studs over my waiver wire pickups. If I picked up a guy, let's say 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he's been consistently doing better than another one of my studs, I think there's something to think about there. You don't know if it's a month-long flash in the pan thing or, but I'm starting my studs. I mean, you can have a stud that you pick up off the waiver wire. I really think that that's something that, but I think he's more specifically talking about studs that you drafted. So I'm going to guess that, yeah, if I pick up a guy who's had 2 hot weeks in a row off the waiver wire that I picked up a month ago, I'm most likely going to bench him, especially if I have a high-powered player that I drafted who has been doing well but has struggled recently in weeks. Jack, are you kind of feeling the same way about that, or are you just going to be are you making decisions based off of recency bias?
Yeah, so I guess it depends. I'm just kidding. I don't know that I would necessarily say recency bias. I mean, I'm not going with hey, Tua's got a great matchup this week, I'm going to start him over this guy. You dance with the date that brought you, so to speak, to use that phrase. So, I mean, if somebody's been getting it done for you all season, whether it's a high draft pick guy or it's somebody that you picked up early on, I mean, I guess it's if he means it in the context of only studs that you drafted high. Because for me, I've been starting Cordero Patterson all season as my RB2. And I mean, I picked him up week 2, I believe. So if he would count as more of a stud, then I guess I'm going to pick the guys that have been more consistent. I try to look at especially once you get to the playoffs, if I'm trying to just, get cute or be smart and try to win a random regular season week, I might be trying to play more of the matchups. But once you're in the playoffs, you're in the top 4 or top 6 teams, whatever it is, for a reason. You had to have at least been in the top half of the league. So I wouldn't all of a sudden pivot and bench guys that have done well for you. I mean, if you're in between a guy that's supposed to be good but struggling and a guy that it was a nobody but has been doing well lately, I lean more towards playing the matchups and the guys that are doing well lately. I have no problem benching a well-known player. I don't really get hung up on the big names, so to speak. I mean, early in the season when I was starting James Conner and Cordero Patterson, that obviously that sounds gross, but they're doing well. So you got to try to take the names out of it, in my opinion. But that's only if you're really like right on the line where you can flip a coin of like, who do I go with? Like, I go with the production over the stud or the name, so to speak. But obviously, you're not benching a guy who's like top 20 in his running back receiver position or top 10 in his quarterback position. Like, it would have to be a very, very particular situation for me to bench a stud guy. Like, maybe, you know, if you're in that range of like, I don't like a Burrow or a Justin Herbert, who are kind of in that, like, they're QB ones, but they're low QB ones. Like, maybe if it was one of them versus a good defense like the Ravens, or if I had the option to like pick up Cam versus like a so-so defense, then I would probably go with like the Cam option just because it's close. But I'm not benching like not benching a Kelsey or a Mark Andrews so that I can pick up Freiermuth, for example, this week at tight end just because he's got a good matchup. Like, it's the studs would have to be disappointing and underperforming for me to mess with what makes sense.
Definitely. Let me throw this question out to you, and I don't even know if I did this or if you answered it or not. Can a waiver wire guy be a stud? I mean, waiver wire guys can be studs. I mean, would you say that Cordero Patterson, even though he's not a stud in the realm of other running backs, to your example, he has actually performed well enough to be in your starting lineup for most of the season? So I would almost consider that a stud. So I don't know if Garlic, if he's still listening, if he wants to hop in the Discord and get on his surface and chat with us about this, or if he wants to type in the chat that, you know, how are you defining like a stud? But for the most part, I think what I generally try and do is I'm looking at my players that I got, and if I'm waffling on one, you know, how much am I
pancaking, you know,
or pancaking? How much am I waffling or pancaking on the guy that I'm looking at too? Like like we say on a lot of things, go with the team that makes you feel the most comfortable. Not all of your players are always going to make you feel comfortable, but you know, it's your team. So at the end of the day, play the guys you want to play, who you feel that will be the best. But I would say, yeah. So I guess that's my lasting piece of advice.
Long story short, from my end, wrapping up kind of what you were saying, is what makes a stud for me is consistency. Like, I don't think a top end draft pick continues to be a stud if he has like 2 or 3 huge, like if it's a running back who's gets like 4, 8, 6, and then 30, and at the end of the season he looks like he's an RB1. That isn't a stud to me, because 80% of those weeks he hurt you or he screwed you over. If it's somebody like, again, like your example of Cordero Patterson, I think he missed a couple weeks so far this year, and obviously he didn't start as the main guy, but he's technically RB12 on the year. That's literally an RB1 who you got for either a last pick in the draft or like picking him up on the waiver wires early on like I did. So like, I think it's something like him where he's not even supposed to be doing it and he's consistent anyway. So it might feel gross week to week, or you might be a lot more like, yeah, I'd much rather be starting, I don't know, a Joe Mixon or somebody else like high end who's done it for more years than Cordero Patterson. But like, Patterson's outperformed a good amount of the running backs overall this year. So I mean, I think he becomes a stud when he's getting double-digit points almost every single week, and he has the potential to do it again. Like, it's not situational. It's not because the guy in front of him is hurt necessarily. Like, he's just doing it. So I think because of the consistency and because he's been startable most of the year, like once you get past that, oh, he had 1 or 2 good weeks and he continues to be that week after week after week, then I think he becomes a stud where it's like, you're locked in. You're starting them no matter what because they've proven it. They didn't just have one good week because of a broken 80-yard touchdown or something like that. So that's I guess what I'll end it on.
Right on. One last note there. I'm looking at the Discord right now, and I see that there's a reaction to Garlic's post, and it looks like it's a head-banging Doge Army dog. So
Love that.
A+ reaction for that right there. So
yeah,
one last thing here that we'll get to. Alex, right away at the top of the podcast, he asked, "Can you guys do a start-sit stream Sunday morning so I know who to play?" Jack, are you willing to expand your streaming schedule to do live broadcasting Sunday mornings for start-sit?
So we talked about this a little bit in the past. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to do a whole nother episode where we hop on and everything, just because I don't don't usually have that kind of free time. We're doing a Thanksgiving with Christine's family tomorrow anyways, but I'd be super open to whether we implement it towards like the playoff push or starting next season, where just like uploading quick little videos here and there, kind of similar to like what Matthew Berry does, where it's just like a 60-second hitter of a reaction or oh, this guy's out, here's what I think for the rest of the players on this team kind of thing. I'd be super down for something like that, but I don't know that I'm going to have the time to sit in front of a computer for another hour multiple times in a week. So, nor do you want to hear me do that, Al.
So this is actually kind of a good segue. We are looking to have more content for you guys. It's tough. I know. I mean, our social medias are pretty bare. We're doing our live stream once a week right now, which I feel is actually going pretty well. I thought our structure that we've had well over the last month has been great, and it's shown in the amount of people who have been showing up to the live stream, and we really appreciate that for everybody. We really, really do. But we are looking into ways that we can get additional content out to you. And like Jack said, we have been tossing around the ideas of just recording videos and throwing them up there on the socials for you guys to be able to take a look at that, as well as on our YouTube channel. So we're going to continue to talk about that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping that next season we will be able to provide you with more content. Now, also, I don't know if we've ever streamed all the way through the playoffs and up through the Super Bowl, but I've talked with Jack, and if I remember right, Jack is on board for weekly streams all the way up through the Super Bowl. So, I mean,
yeah, I'd be down.
I'm
not that there'd be a whole lot of fantasy stuff to talk about. Well, it might not necessarily be like.
I'm also going to announce that I have looked into a website, and I think we're going to roll with it. I don't know if I'm going to do the manual input of the Google Sheets, but we are going to be doing a NFL playoffs fantasy game where essentially you're going to be picking players from each team, and you're going to be accumulating points, and the winner will be the team who has the most points at the end of the Super Bowl. So there'll be more details on how to play all that stuff, and we'll be featuring that here on our podcast coming up. So look for that definitely in the Discord. Speaking of the Discord, you can find a link to our Discord in the description below. Please join the Discord. You can ask us wonderful questions like Garlic and Alex have. We also appreciate you guys hitting us up in the chat box here on YouTube. And I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that we need to get to. There is not. So guys, yes, please join the Discord and join in on the fun of all of that. All right, we are moving on into our matchup recaps segment. So let's get started with that. All right, so last week I had high score of the week again. Walters beat Josh 114.1 to Josh's 80.5. Josh had Aaron Rodgers, Najee Harris, and Tyreek Hill as his top three players. I had Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, and Deontay Johnson. Moving on, Cassie beat Jack last week, 90.94 to 80.42. Jack's top performers were James Conner, Travis Kelce, and Jalen Waddle. Cassie had DeAndre Swift, Dalvin Cook, and Terry McLaurin be her top players. Moving on, Jordan versus Alex. Alex narrowly beat out Jordan for his third win in a row. That is 86.78 to 81.48. Alex had Jalen Hurts, Stephon Diggs, and Adam Thielen as his top performers. Jordan had Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, and Mike Bagley. Is that it? Is that Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's kicker.
Yeah, the kicker. Yep, I knew it was the kicker. All right, moving on. Okay. Ryan beat out a nail biter against our commissioner Tyler, 96.9 to 95.62. Tyler had Joe Mixon, Tua, and Brandon Ayuk as his top players. Ryan had the New England defense, Myles Gaskin, and Nick Folk as his top three performers. Gross. Now, I mean, weird. New England had just a massive day defensively. Foster, moving on. Foster even more narrowly lost to Jay, Grocery Store Jay. J1 85.88 to Foster's 85.26. Jay had Tom Brady, Chris Boswell, and DJ Moore for his top performers. And then Foster had Devontae Adams, Josh Allen, and Mike Evans. And for our last matchup, we have Ben beating out Cassie 108.58 to Cassie's 100.38. Cassie, her top performer, I'm sorry, that's not Cassie, that's Katie. I apologize. Katie had 100.38. Katie's top performers were Justin Erbert, Mike Williams, and Justin Tucker. Ben had Jonathan Taylor, Mac Jones, and the Indy defense as his top performers as well. I don't think there's anything else that we need. Oh, I know what we're going to move into next. We are going to have our standings. Looking at, oh yeah. Okay. Looking at our standings, Walters is sitting at the top of the leaderboard all by himself, 8-3. To note, I have clinched a playoff spot. I could lose the rest of the way out and I will still make the playoffs. Tyler, Jordan, and Ben are all sitting tied for second at 7-4. Foster, Jay are both at 6-5. Katie, Alex at 5-6. Josh, Ryan, and Cassie all at 4-7, and then Jack is sitting at 3-8.
Yep.
Yikes.
What's amazing though is obviously I'm not making the playoffs, but once again, our league being for the most part very, very close and competitive. I think last season we had like 7 people that were all at like 500 or all like one game out of the playoffs by the end. But technically not even I am eliminated right now. Like all of us technically could still make the playoffs at this point in the season, which is just absurd. So I always enjoy how like spread out the teams always are.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you have an epic run and somebody has an epic decline, you could sneak into the playoffs. I haven't looked at the playoff scenarios that much, but yeah.
It's 90+% for the top 6 teams currently, which is all the way down to J. So they're all 92% or 86% or above to make it, and everybody else is 16% or below. So it's pretty close to locked in, but yeah. Anybody who's got 5 wins or less right now is pretty close to eliminated.
Yeah. So good luck coming up to those fighting for a playoff spot. Like I said, I am
not combine drills
or not combine drills, whatever works.
Who's to say? Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm the only one locked in for the playoffs 100%. So that is absolutely sweet. Let's move on to our next segment here. We have our waivers, add, and drops. This past week, Alex was the big spender. He spent $30 on Tevin Coleman. Your thoughts on Tevin Coleman?
It's good for like a 1 week start because Michael Carter's out, and I believe he might be the owner for him in this league too. I can't remember, but Michael Carter being out, there's really no number 2 option for the Jets. So it's either going to be Coleman or Tyler Johnson. Obviously don't love it, but you got to try to pull a win together when you can. We'll get into who he's possibly going to start him over a little bit later, but I get it at this point in the season. Can't take Fab with you. If you miss the playoffs, and he's 1 game out at this point, so gotta do what you
can. Jordan spent $10 on Cam Newton. Do you think that this is a pickup that you could run with for the rest of the season, going into the playoffs and through the playoffs, or is Jordan just going to be using him for 1 week?
I really think you could. I mean, he's got Russell also, so I think he's kind of just hedging his bets because Russell's looked pretty terrible since he came back from his injury. I'd be tempted to start Cam this week, even just because he's going up against an easy Dolphins defense, whereas Russell's playing against Washington. I know they lost Chase Young, but still, I would maybe want Russell to prove it a little bit more, which is crazy to say since Cam wasn't even in the league until 2 weeks ago. But Cam's just rushing ability is insane right now, and I think he's as big of a threat on the goal line as pretty much any player of any position in the league. And depending on whether Russell figures stuff out or not, I think regardless of this specific team for Jordan, I think most people right now could pick up Cam and at least have him be a a serviceable option in the next couple of weeks just because of his rushing ability alone. So if you don't have a top end, like locked in quarterback, I think Cam is one of those guys that you can consider sliding in instead.
If Russell Wilson has a comeback week this week and he's top 12 quarterback, puts up over 20 points, are you going to be immediately inserting him into next week's lineup, or are you still going to waffle or pancake between Cam Newton and Russell Wilson?
I would probably want to see what Cam did also, but I mean, yeah, assuming Russell has a good week again, I think you roll with him unless or until he doesn't. He's just been so consistent over his career. I mean, pretty much every single season he's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback or better. So I think this year, obviously being a down one with the injury and everything, but I think if he kind of gives you that confidence booster for 1 week, then yeah, I see no reason why you don't roll with him first. So I got to imagine Jordan's just picking him up because he doesn't want it to happen again. Like if it happens 3 weeks in a row where Russell puts up 10 points or less, I think then you maybe pivot to benching him for Cam. But Russell still would be the guy that I would give the first shot to, so to speak.
Yeah. Is there anything else on this list that you see intriguing that you would want to talk about? I spent $5 on Garoppolo. Not much to say about him. I've already talked about him a little bit today.
Yeah, not a whole lot that I'm really seeing, to be honest.
Foster picked up Matt Breida for $0. Is that just like a desperation thing because of is one of their running backs not playing?
Yes, I believe so. Reports came out that Zach Moss was going to be inactive. Zach Moss was inactive for the Thursday night game because the Bills played the Saints. So I think they picked him up for that reason. He was a healthy scratch, which seemed odd because Moss had been doing better. So the fact that there was nothing wrong with him, but they benched him anyways, kind of made you wonder a little bit what was going on there. So I think it's just kind of a, hey, you know what? If you got a good empty end of the bench spot to pick up, why not? Breida's always been more historically like a kind of a receiving back, and I believe he got a touchdown in Thursday night's game. So I mean, puts him at probably 8 to 12 points, somewhere in that range off the top of my head. So I mean, it's a guy that you could start in a pinch, but I think it's a good dart throw for the end of your bench.
Okay, cool. I'm waiting.
That's all I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my next page to load. So
okay.
I see what's where some of my hold-ups are for my stream. I might have to change some stuff up, but we're good to go. We're gonna transition to our next scene, which is, unless there's anything else you have left to say, I'm going to be moving into our matchup previews. So let's get it.
Which, quick little disclaimer, everybody, before we start, our league does a little bit of a different thing than most, where the last 3 weeks of the season, we are not doing any head-to-head matchups. We are just doing the top 6 scorers get a win. This is kind of a way where we all play each other once, but then nobody gets any unfair advantage of, getting to play a lower team twice or having to play a tougher team twice or anything like that. So we just took 11 weeks and then, subtracted that from the total number of weeks, and now it's just a way to kind of even out who the truly top teams are. So you could get smoked by whoever you're playing technically head to head, but both of you could get the win that week, just to tell you. So I'm assuming we'll go through kind of like the previews, still showing 2 teams at a time, but we can kind of just discuss them overall rather than like who's going to win head to head.
Absolutely. The format that I was going to use in this was essentially just going to be, do you think the teams that we're talking about have the ability to be a top 6 team on the week?
Yeah.
So
love it.
All right. So we are going to be moving to Josh versus Ben in their matchup. Currently, Josh is winning 37.7 to Ben's 22. Josh is projected 103.5 and Ben is projected 89.8. Let's start with Josh's team. Aaron Rodgers. Do you look for Aaron Rodgers to have sort of this? Aaron Rodgers, he has not been a top 12 quarterback all season long. Like, he's been there weekly a couple of times, but he's been out of the top 12. Do you think that Aaron Rodgers has a top 12 performance as a quarterback this week against the Los Angeles Rams?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, technically right now he's QB 10, so he is a QB 1, but a lot of that's based off him putting like 33 points in fantasy up against the Vikings last week. So, I mean, he's for the most part been pretty consistent. It's been rare where he's pretty much been in that 15 to 25 point range, which is good. The Rams defense is scary and concerning to me, but there's also question marks with the Packers run game this week too. Aaron Jones has been practicing limitedly and might come back, so I think that makes me think they're going to probably lean more on the passing attack. Rodgers is pretty good about getting the ball out quickly, so I don't think there's going to be as much of an issue for him as most quarterbacks when they play against the Rams. It's going to be really, really interesting to see the Devonta Adams, Jalen Ramsey matchup. I think that's going to be pretty telling because Ramsey's one of the best corners in the league, if not the best. So can Devonta get open? Because really every other option on the Packers is pretty rough, but I expect the Rams offense to be putting up points too, and I think this is projected as a high scoring matchup. So I would assume the Packers are going to have to too. Like I don't see this being a 17-14 game. It's probably going to be in the mid to high 20s or even pushing 30s. So I think Rodgers can definitely be a QB1 this week. I just don't know that I'd expect like 25 plus points for him from Josh.
Okay. And I need to walk that back a little bit because I am looking at his season stats right now, and there's only been like there were literally 2 games that you could say were bad games. Actually, 3 games. The first game, and then week 8, and then week 10. So,
Yep.
But other than that, he's been actually really good. So I don't know why. I mean, it must have just been some recency bias stuff. Like he had a couple of poor performances back to back, plus a bye week thrown in the middle of there. You've got the COVID stuff, you got the foot stuff. I mean, it's just a lot of bad juju or a lot of bad hype around him. So that was a bad opinion. So Aaron Rodgers, definitely better quarterback this year than what I've thought. So all right, we're gonna be moving on, and I apologize to Aaron about that. All right. Pat Freiermuth, what do you think about Pat? What do you think he's going to do this week against Cincinnati? He's projected 6.3. The Washington football team. No, I'm sorry, the Bengals. I don't know why I said Washington football team. Stupid. What do you think? Dang it! I wanted to ask a question, but whatever. How do you think Freiermuth is going to do? I was hoping that the page would tell me the Cincy like the how the defense ranks against that certain position, but I couldn't find it, so I'm just gonna just walk away from it.
No, that's fine. I don't think that Cincinnati is necessarily like a top end defense, so I don't think that they wouldn't be a matchup that would make me worried to start anybody against necessarily. Freiermuth looked great, especially in recent weeks. I know he had kind of like a slow start to the season, but he's 3 of his last 4 weeks. He's had he's averaging a touchdown per his last 4 weeks, which is great. And he's actually getting a lot of targets. He's had 7, 6, 9, and 7 targets between those 4. Ebron is out again, which means he's going to be the number 1 tight end option. And Big Ben really can't throw the ball deep anymore. So, I mean, he's been looking Freiermuth's way. I definitely like him as far as any non-top end tight ends. I think he's one of the best of like that next group of guys. So, obviously, he's no George Kittle like on Ben's side, but I think Freiermuth has as good a chance as any to score. So I definitely like that option. Yeah.
Okay, and one last thing, then we're going to move over to Ben. Michael Pittman, he is playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, we know that the Buccaneers secondary isn't necessarily the greatest, but Carson Wentz throwing Michael Pittman the football, I'm not concerned about Pittman's ability to get open. I'm concerned about the pass rush of the Tampa Bay defense getting in Carson Wentz's face and forcing him to make mistakes. Is Michael Pittman Jr. a wide receiver 1 this week?
I don't think he's a 1. I think he's a solid 2 option. I think just you're going to expect the Colts to have to put up points to keep up with the Buccaneers. It's going to be interesting, though, because, I mean, Ben has Jonathan Taylor on the other side of the ball, which I can get into in a bit. But the Colts have been really succeeding the last few weeks, at least on Taylor dominating in the run game. So it's kind of like, does that continue to take away from Pittman, or will the Bucs' strong like front 7 hold Taylor in check where maybe Pittman has to move the ball a little bit more through the air? So I definitely like him as an option. I wouldn't be starting pretty much anybody else over him. But it's going to be interesting how the matchup plays out between the 2 teams.
Okay. All right. Speaking about Ben and Jonathan Taylor, is he going to have a multi-touchdown game again this week?
I don't think it's going to be a multi-touchdown. I mean, he's scored at least one touchdown in every game since week 4 on. So literally weeks 4 through 11, he has at least scored one, if not multiple. But I don't expect him to be dominating on the ground this week. That's not to say that I think he's going to be held in check. I think when you're like on a hot streak like this, you're going to continue to do well. But I don't expect the Colts to be like leading the entire game. So I don't think they're going to be able to rely on just the run game. I could see him maybe doing a little bit better like in the screen or receiving work. But I probably would say based on his last, several weeks, he's 28, 27, 15, 18, 32, 18, and 50. I would guess this week is going to be on the lower end of those, but I don't think it's going to be like the worst. I would still not be surprised if he's in that like 12 plus range, but I'm going to guess more of like the 12 to 17 points. So probably still enough to be an RB1, but he's not going to be like the week winner like he has maybe in a couple of other recent weeks.
Let me ask you, what do you mean by keep in check? Like, is he going to break 100 yards against Tampa Bay?
I think he'll have 100 total yards. I don't think he's going to have 100 rushing yards. I feel like it'll be more of like 120, 130 total yards, maybe one touchdown, 2 if he's lucky. It just depends on how much they use him in the receiving game. But I don't think he's going to be like I said, he's not going to have as dominant of a week as he has recently against some of these other top end defenses.
Okay. Looking at Ben's wide receivers, thoughts? Courtland Sutton. They're not big names by any means, and you kind of look at it and you're like, yikes.
Wide receiver 34 and 39 are the 2 he's starting. So
yeah, and then Van Jefferson down in his flex. So Matt Stafford, do you feel the Van Jefferson Matt Stafford stack is gonna do Ben well this week?
I like the home run swing for the stacks. I feel like this is these are the weeks to do it in, at least in our league, when you've got, the free for all, so to speak. So I feel like you're kind of playing more of like a DFS style where you don't care if you're in middle of the road or trying to beat somebody else. You just need to be top end scores or not. And I think with him projected on the lower end, having that quarterback receiver stack makes sense. Because he's probably already on the bubble as it is. Like if they don't do well, he's already out of it. But if they do well, he's pretty much safe. So I mean, Jefferson's definitely like the 2 or 3 option in the Rams. So I don't know that I love him, but I think it's a good shot for him to get like a deep target or get a touchdown here and there, and then that could save Ben's week, so to speak. So I don't hate it.
Okay, and last one, then we're gonna move on. I have to ask, George Kittle, is he going to destroy the Vikings this week, or do you think that he can be kept in check?
I don't think he's going to be kept in check. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I don't know that he's going to, he's not going to put up 150 yards or anything crazy like that, but I would expect him to probably have a good chance to score a touchdown. And I would think like in the 6 to 8 target range, which he could easily turn into 50 to 75 yards. So I expect him to have a pretty solid week. The Vikings aren't known for stopping tight ends super great. So unless we try to match him with Eric Hendricks, who's really good in coverage, I could see Kittle working the middle of the field pretty well against us.
Okay. All right. Moving on to our next matchup here. We are going to have Katie versus, well, it's not Katie versus Tyler. It's Katie and Tyler. We're going to be talking about those 2 teams next year. And currently, Katie has 16.3 points. She is projected 96. Tyler, he is projected 98. Do you feel like any of these 2 teams will be in the top 6 this week? Well, first, let's just start with Katie. Well, actually, go ahead and answer my question first. Very, very brief. Like, Tyler, Katie, do they make top 6?
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think Tyler is pretty safe to be in the top 6. I like a lot of his matchups this week and his choices to start. Katie, I'm not super sure on because 2 of her players that have already gone didn't like dominate or any by any means, but I think the big thing will be whether Aaron Jones plays or not, and she has to start Jones versus Dillon. I think she could be on the bubble, so it's going to be tough for her, but I think Tyler should be.
Okay, let's talk about DK Metcalf. I think I'm going to just double check his scores. He has had just the last 2 weeks have just been kind of ouch, and then he had his bye week. So not much that you've seen from DK Metcalf. Do you think DK Metcalf has a bounce back week this week, or what are you projecting for him?
I expect this to be a pretty good week. I believe the Washington secondary is pretty rough. They're 4th most fantasy points allowed to receivers. Really, the problem with DK isn't DK himself. It's just that Russell Wilson's looked terrible. So, I mean, if Russell can figure it out, then obviously DK is the number one beneficiary from it. So I would expect DK to at least put up like low wide receiver 1, high wide receiver 2 numbers. I don't think he's going to light it up as Russell keeps figuring out his kinks. But yeah, I think DK will have a better week than he's been having recently.
Okay. DK or Tyler Lockett, better game? Who has a better game?
Probably DK still. I mean, DK's got a higher floor. Lockett's so boomer bust to me.
Okay. How do you feel about Damian Harris this week? Damian Harris has been doing quite well as of recent, except for last week he underperformed at Atlanta. But before that, his last 4 games, he had double digits. 3 out of the last 4. 3 out of the last 4 games. That what I'm talking about is week 6 through week 9. He had double digit fantasy points in 3 of those 4 matchups. Do you see Damian Harris coming back to double digits this week against Tennessee?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, a touchdown can basically get you there, but I think it's going to be low double digits. I don't have super high expectations for him. I think he's been practicing like limitedly all week, and he's questionable for Sunday's game, so I don't even know if he's going to be fully ready to go if he does start. But the last couple of weeks, at least, the Patriots have been giving Stevenson the ball so much too that they basically split carries last week, and Stevenson technically outproduced him. So I don't know that I have as high of a ceiling for Damian this coming week. He feels like more like a low, safe RB2 to me than anything.
I feel more comfortable starting Damian Harris over Ramondre Stevenson. How do you feel about that? If you had to pick one of the two, who would you start?
Yeah, I mean, probably Damian still. He's still technically the starter. I just think that Stevenson is going to make it a point where like neither of them are really like able to be relied on. Like Stevenson's going to take enough of the work where they're both not super usable and they're more like flex plays is my fear.
Okay. Last one for Katie, Justin Erbert. He lit the world on fire last week with a 34-point performance. Do you think he's going to outplay his projected total of 20.6 points this week, or do you feel like he's going to fall right around there?
Yeah, I mean, I think 20 is like a solid amount. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into like the 22, 23 points. I think it's definitely doable. The Broncos don't have that scary of a defense anymore. They've lost a lot of their pass rushing threats, really, and Herbert's starting to run the ball a lot more too. Like he's able to move the ball through the ground and the air. He's got Eckler, who's lighting it up as a receiving back wise. So there's a lot of ways for him to move the ball, and I expect them to be winning this game pretty easily. So yeah, I think Herbert in that like 19 to 23 point range is pretty solid.
Okay, moving over to Tyler's team. I see Tyler. He is going for the home run hits this week. He's got Elijah Moore, Noah Fant, Brandon Ayuk, and Devonta Freeman all in his lineup. All could just blow up, or all could just be duds for the week. High risk, high reward is kind of what I'm seeing out of Tyler's lineup here this week. Looking at it, what are you seeing that is interesting or noteworthy to you about Tyler's team this week?
Yeah, biggest, I guess, noteworthy wise is just the fact that AJ Brown was announced as being out. So obviously that's why he's probably sliding in Ayuk and or Elijah Moore. AJ Brown being out really, really hurts, obviously, but Elijah Moore has been on fire recently. I mean, the last few weeks he's had 20, 10, and 21. So, I mean, I think you got to stay in the flames with him. And Ayuk, I feel like, has finally started to figure it out. He had a really, really good week last week, 7 for 7 for 85 and a touchdown. A couple of weeks before that, he had 89 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, Vikings secondary is definitely exploitable, and I think he's a solid flex option because he had the talent last year, and he looks like he's finally starting to get some shots this year. So I love those. I mean, Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. There's not a lot to say about Lamar or Mixon. I think they both dominate. Now that Lamar is healthy, I think they'll both dominate. So there's not a lot else to cover. Devonta Freeman is the only other like interesting one to me. Like I said earlier, starting him in my streamer showdown, he's getting all of the volume in the Ravens rushing attack, and I mean he's not being super efficient with it, but he's going to get the touchdown opportunities. He's going to get the chances when the defense is keyed in on Lamar. So I don't hate it as far as an RB2 goes. there's not really a lot of players on Tyler's team that I dislike the matchups on. So, I mean, Fant, I guess, is the only weak spot you can say, but he's still a fine tight end. He's still in that kind of like Dalton Schultz, Pat Fryermuth range where like he could easily get a touchdown. He's going to get 4 or 5 looks. He'll be fine. So Tyler's team overall feels pretty safe.
Okay. Going back to Devonta Freeman, I see on Tyler's bench that we've got Javonte Williams or Ty Johnson. That could, would you play any of those two players over Devonta Freeman?
Probably not. Definitely not Ty Johnson because there's no guarantee he's the guy over Tevin Coleman with the Jets. But I feel like both him and Javonte Williams are in a timeshare, like a split with them and another running back, whereas Devonte is pretty much getting all the carries. So I think you go with the guaranteed volume, so to speak. Javonte Williams probably has a much higher ceiling than Devonta Freeman, but he's just been getting handicapped by Melvin Gordon getting touchdowns where I think he's only got like 1 on the year, 1 or 2. So I think I probably would be going with Tyler the same way on this one, but I totally get it. If your team was struggling more, why it would make more sense to play Javonte Williams instead, just going for that home run swing.
I kind of echo your thoughts there. I feel like the floor for Devonta Freeman is there, and Javonte Williams is definitely the home run hit. So, or the home run play. The ceiling is way higher for him. I don't think I have anything else to go over with this matchup, so we can move on to Foster versus Cassie. Just pulling it up here. Okay. Foster currently has 39.7 to Cassie's 38.8. Foster is projected 104.6 to Cassie's 99.9. Foster had Josh Allen that had a pretty good week, 26.7 bounce back week after that embarrassing loss to Tennessee. Did they lose to Tennessee in week 11?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Leonard Fournette, David Johnson are your starting running backs, and then Elijah Mitchell in the flex. I'm feeling kind of gross about all of these running back plays. What are your thoughts on any of that?
I disagree with the Leonard Fournette one. I think he's awesome. He's been basically an RB1 on the season. Up until last week, he didn't have like a super good week, but he's getting the majority of the volume. He's on Tom Brady's offensive attack. I think he should be a high running back 2 or better this week. David Johnson is just kind of by default like the only guy left in the Texans. I think he had 13 carries last week and he didn't do super well, but he's playing against the Jets this week. So, I mean, anybody can move the ball in the Jets and he gets some receiving work. So probably a gross running back 2, but he's a solid flex. Elijah Mitchell, obviously I like the most out of the 3. It's just whether he's healthy or not. So I think he's a game time decision for Sunday's game, but if he plays, I think the 49ers rushing attack is just so good that he'll be a solid RB2 also. So all 3 feel like kind of pretty middle of the road, not like super top end guys, but I think he's got a strong 1 through 3 option in my opinion.
Okay. If you were to slide in Elijah Mitchell over David Johnson, would you rather play like a Corey Davis over David Johnson? Or
they both feel gross. I mean, they're in the same matchup against terrible defenses either way, but I would probably go Johnson just because it's more guaranteed, whereas who knows if Zach Wilson's going to get Corey Davis the ball. So that would be my opinion.
Okay. Just to note, let's see here. Leonard Fournette over the last month, he's had his bye week, and week 8, 10, and 11 were all single-digit scores. Week 10, he had 9.2 points in our league. I would agree that he is RB2 potential, but I would say that high RB2 is probably in Leonard Fournette's ceiling. He has cracked 20 points one time this year, but that's about it. Usually I would say his ceiling is right around probably the 14, 15 point range is probably where Leonard Fournette's ceiling is. So obviously good RB2, but he has been a little bit cold over the last month. I would actually feel better about playing Corey Davis over David Johnson, even though Corey Davis has had really the last month has been really rough. He's missed a couple games. And he's had actually I'm looking at these 7.3 points is his best performance, and that was week 10 over the last month. Otherwise, he's been out or it's just been poor performance. So I would guess your assessment is probably correct. I'm going to walk.
Yeah,
that
I'll
back
take the
and
David
say
Johnson bet on that
David
one.
Johnson's a better play than that. Yikes! It's probably due to the emergence of Elijah Moore out there in New York. So, all right, we're just gonna go over to Cassie's team over here and talk about her team just a little bit. Marquise Brown and Terry McLaurin are going to be her starting wide receivers. Marquise Brown, how do you feel about him potentially having a breakout week?
I don't know if I feel like he's going to have a breakout week. I think Rashad Bateman cutting into it, his emergence lately is affecting that, and Mark Andrews has been great too. Plus, at the end of the day, Lamar just doesn't throw the ball enough for it to necessarily matter. I think he could have a good week. I mean, all it takes is one catch from him. He's so fast with the deep routes that could be enough, but I don't expect this to be a week that he dominates necessarily. Cleveland's got a decent enough defense, so I think this could be more of like a Lamar running around week just with their pass rush. So don't hate it, but I feel like he's more of a wide receiver too for me.
Okay. Moving on to Terry McLaurin. How does the return of Logan Thomas affect Terry McLaurin in this matchup?
I don't think it will a ton. The Seahawks really can't stop a lot of people on defense, and I think Logan Thomas is going to take a little bit to get used to it. He might have more like red zone looks, but I think Terry McLaurin's still going to get the volume.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. If anything, having Logan Thomas come back just helps both of them because the defense now has to decide who are we going to cover. You know, are we gonna cover the running back? Are we gonna cover Scary Terry? Are we gonna cover Logan Thomas? So I just think that it gives the offense for the Washington football team more options and just more flexibility. So I would say that you could see an uptick in all of these guys' performance this week. Miles Sanders. Looking at Miles Sanders in the flex, I'm looking at Cassie's bench, and I see OBJ and Jarvis Landry. Would you be wanting to play any of those players over Miles Sanders?
No chance.
With OBJ, are you
sure.
just a sit and see what happens and then slide him in as he comes along?
I don't believe he's necessarily going to be fantasy relevant the rest of the season. He might have like a touchdown here or there, but I wouldn't be starting him over if you have options. And Miles Sanders, when he's healthy, gets the bulk of the work with the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're going against the Giants, who can't stop anybody. So Sanders could easily have a decent week, in my opinion.
Cool. I see that Cassie does have Logan Thomas on her IR. She will obviously probably be fixing that, but when it comes time, are you going to be starting Logan Thomas over Dalton Schultz, or how do you feel about those two players compared to each other?
I would probably give it a week of Logan Thomas playing just to see what he does, because there's no guarantee he comes back and does anything. But he has been good in the past, so I think once he has like a week or two in, I would be comfortable starting him over Schultz, just because Schultz had a good week this past week, but that was also due in part to CD not playing and Amari Cooper being out. So I think when their team is fully healthy, there's just a lot of targets going on in Dallas. So I would be hoping that Logan Thomas does well in his return, and I'd feel more comfortable playing him, but it's close of the two.
Cool. All right. We are going to be moving on. I'm going to say Foster is going to be a top 6 score, and I don't believe Cassie will be a top 6 score. I don't know if you echo those thoughts.
Yeah, I would agree. Cassie's going to be close. She's kind of in the Katie range or the Ben, where they're kind of all on the bubble.
Okay. Moving on to Jordan versus Alex. We have... There we go.
I was going to say, we can just talk about them both kind of together if you want.
I like it. So Jordan is projected 108.3. Alex is projected 94.6. Looking at both of these players, Dawson Knox had an amazing comeback game. 15.2 points, just studly. Stephon Diggs did work as well. I see Jordan has Russell Wilson in his starting lineup, but I'm assuming he's going to be sliding Cam Newton in there. I'm not sure though.
I would assume he starts Russell. That's just me.
I'm looking at Jordan's receivers. I like his receivers over Alex's. Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, definitely high flying names. Chase Claypool is kind of, that kind of that home run hit. I think the receiving game goes through Deontay Johnson. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think Claypool's not been lights out or anything this year, so he feels more like a flex than a wide receiver too. I actually would say that Thielen in his flex is the stronger receiver of the two, but he's got him based on like the game time starts. So I think Diggs plus Thielen and then Claypool as his third is pretty close, though not as good obviously as Jefferson and Kupp. But I think his flex is a lot stronger than Jordan's with Rex Burkhead. So I think their three against each other are pretty similar. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Jordan's got some top end guys with McCaffrey and then Cooper Kupp, obviously, and now Jefferson with the volume he's getting. So I mean, those three alone could be enough to survive the following week. Like I mentioned before, I won't go too much into it again, but I'm just concerned with Russell Wilson and if he's going to figure it out or not. So I think that is the only thing that could derail Jordan. Otherwise, assuming Russell can have like a decent to good game, I think Jordan's pretty safe for a lock in the top 6. On Alex's side of the ball, though, I really like his team too. So I think this could be one of the few matchups where both guys are top end. I expect Hurts. Hurts is my my big move as far as like anybody who plays DFS leagues. This week, Hurts is my guy locked in for a quarterback just against the Giants. I think he's going to be able to run the ball a lot. So I would expect him to have a pretty high end week. And then I don't really hate the rest of Alex's team. I mean, Alex Collins is a little bit of a question mark, but with Chris Carson being out, he's going to get the volume. So I feel like he's like a low ceiling, high floor kind of guy that can get you that like 8 to 10 points. And yeah, I mean, everybody else's in Alex's team looks pretty solid for this week too.
One thing I just wanted to go over real quick on Jordan's flex. He's got Rex Burkhead in. On Jordan's bench, he's got Jerry Jeudy. He's got Ramondre Stevens. Yeah. Would you rather play any of those two players over Rex Burkhead at this point?
Yeah, that's tough. Burkhead and Stevenson seem the same, where like they're both kind of in a timeshare of who knows who's going to be the guy, but I think I like Stevenson's talent more. I would probably maybe go Jeudy, but I mean, he hasn't exactly done a whole lot since he's come back either. I just can't see Rex Burkhead being the guy that wins you a week, so to speak. I mean, I get like the argument for David Johnson also, that Rex Burkhead could get some carries and stuff. I don't see him having any kind of a ceiling, whereas like Jeudy could just get one decent pass. So it's close. Neither of them are great options. I mean, that's just my opinion, whereas Jordan just might be feeling the other way. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Righty.
All right.
Let's move on to your matchup. Grocery store Jay versus training for the combine Jack. Let's see, we're going to just do that. Okay. Currently, Jay is winning 16.3 to your 0.0, but that doesn't really matter because it's top 6. Jay projected 91.9 to your 8, and you are projected 88.4. Jack, I'm just gonna say I don't think you're gonna make top 6 this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably not.
But let's take a look at Jay's team here. DJ Moore, does he have a repeat week of last week? Finally getting into the end zone with Cam Newton back, put up a decent game, 11 points. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. In 7 weeks, that was the first time he posted double-digit fantasy points. Are we looking for double-digit points again out of DJ Moore this week?
Yeah, I don't expect it to be a super high one, but I think 10 to 11 is easily doable. The Dolphins defense is not very good. I know Cam's going to run the ball a lot, and I know CMC takes a lot of volume, but DJ Moore is clearly the number one receiving option on the team. So if Cam is going to look anybody's way, it should be him. I definitely like him at least as a wide receiver too, if nothing else.
Okay. Tom Brady, James Robinson, Dallas Goedert.
You're starting both of those.
You're starting all
You're starting
those
all
guys.
of them no matter what.
No problem. Looking at his bench, he has either got buys or he's just has trash that you're not going to start. So Hunter Renfrow obviously is going to be the play there. I don't really know if there's anything else notable to talk about with Jay's team. Over on your team real quick, though, just because there are a few interesting players. I see you do have Rashad, Bateman, and Jalen Waddle in your lineup. Jalen Waddle had a massive game not massive. He had a great game last week, 12.6 fantasy points. First time he posted double digits in over a month. I think the first in 5 weeks. Are we looking for Jalen Waddle to have another double digit performance against Miami this week? I'm sorry, against Carolina.
Yeah, he's kind of turning into a wide receiver too. I mean, he's getting a lot of targets, which is crazy. I didn't expect that early on. So I think he's got a good floor. I don't think the Panthers defense is weak by any means, but I mean, they're not top end either. And I expect the Dolphins to be behind Carolina. So they'll probably be throwing. Doesn't seem like it's a boomer bust weeks or a boomer bust player necessarily because he gets so many targets. So I'm hoping he gets like a lucky touchdown. He's got the speed to break like a big play, but I mean, worst case, he should be in line for like that 6 to 8 target range, which is good enough to get you a handful of points. So with Amari Cooper being out, I really didn't have another choice.
Right. Let's see here. Looking at Saquon Barkley, what are your expectations out of Saquon Barkley this week? Are you comfortable starting him, or what are your thoughts on Saquon?
Oh, you're never comfortable starting Saquon, but I mean, he's questionable right now. I mean, he played last week, so you assume he's fine. They're kind of just leaving him on the injury report, so there shouldn't be a ton of concern. He's playing against the Eagles, who aren't great by any means, so I'm really just playing him with the hopes that like he can be the difference maker to put me in the top 6, because he's obviously, when fully healthy, a running back 1. I mean, when he was playing earlier in the season, he was starting to figure it out. He had weeks of 15.4 and 24.6. So, I mean, if he can come out and give me 12 to 15, even, that might be enough to put me up in the top half. I think he's projected for like 12 right now. So, I mean, anything above that is just gravy. Definitely has the talent to do it. He should be getting the majority of the work versus Philly. So we will see. I'm just kind of taking some home run swings this week.
Last home run swing on your team, Rashad Bateman. I know you talked a little bit about him. You said that you think he's going to cut into the targets of Marquise Hollywood Brown. Last week didn't really do much. Let's see. He had 6 targets and caught 3 of them. Are we looking to see around that 6, 7, 8 target range that he's been having over the last month?
Yeah, I mean, every game he's played this year, he's had 6, 6, 8, 8, and 6 targets. Last week, I don't really hold against him because Lamar was like last minute inactive on Sunday. So they had that, what was his name? Tyler Huntley, I think, was the quarterback who got put in. So obviously, you're not going to do a whole lot with the backup quarterback starting last minute. But when Lamar has been in, he seems to look his way. Bateman he hasn't scored a touchdown yet, but he's had 2 games of 80 plus yards, another game of 52 yards. So, I mean, pretty good for a rookie who's only played half the season. I think he's at some point in the next couple of weeks going to have like a solid, like a breakout game where he gets, 15 plus, like he'll get a touchdown, he'll get 70 to 100 yards, so to speak. So I don't have a lot of other options with like 2 or 3 guys on bye on my bench and another couple injured. So I think he's a solid flex for anybody out there who needs it. You just have to hope that he does more than what he's projected to.
Okay, cool. I don't have anything else to say about your matchup. Is there anything else that left for you?
I'll just go to the last one then. I think that should be good.
Perfect. Cool. We have my matchup and Ryan's matchup as well. Ryan currently has 18.8 points. I have not scored any points yet. Ryan is projected 84.7. I'm projected 99.5. I will say, for the sake of it, I will have a top 6 score just because of how my team has performed throughout the year. I'm the only team has over 1,200 points for. So I mean, I'm going to assume that I'm just going to be there again this week. So quickly looking at my team, I put in Jimmy Garoppolo because Patrick Mahomes is on bye this week. I alluded to it earlier that Debo, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk really, I feel, give him a decent ceiling. So I'm going to roll with him this week. Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, obviously no doubters. Deontay Johnson and Debo. Deontay Johnson having just a nice wide receiver 2 season this year. Last week, he put up a really decent game of 16.1. I'm not sure if you're necessarily going to see him do that again since Cincinnati's defense is better than advertised. Debo, I'm looking for him to go off. Gronk, I'm looking for him to have another great game coming back. Hopefully have him see the end zone this week. Godwin as well. I really like the Jimmy and Debo stack. Let's see how that goes. Any thoughts on any of that I just went over real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with most of it. Like your running backs and receivers, there's no question of starting, so I won't repeat basically what you just said. But I think starting Jimmy is kind of gross personally, but I think the rest of your team is good enough for it to not matter. The only reason that it makes it make a little bit of sense is just the stack with Debo. I get playing against the Vikings that they tend to give up some decent quarterback games, but I just don't think Debo has a whole lot of upside. So assuming the rest of your team does what they should do, because they're all top end options, it shouldn't matter. But if it was somebody else that was like more kind of like in the middle of the road, like projected like 4th through 7th points, I think starting Jimmy would be a reason that they missed out on the top 6 scores. So hopefully the rest of your team has no issues. Like I said before, there's not a whole lot of options on the waiver wire, but I don't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be putting up like 20 plus points this week. I expect them to try to do it through the ground, assuming Elijah Mitchell's healthy.
Taylor Heineke or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Gross either way. I guess you go Jimmy just because his, like you said, his weapons are better, but I wouldn't be surprised if both of them have like 18 or less points. So
Teddy, Big Ben, Tua, Baker.
Tua maybe. Tua I just feel like is like the same level as Jimmy Garoppolo, but at least he runs the ball. But Teddy and Big Ben, no. I would have looked at picking up like Tyrod Taylor. I would have looked at picking up Tyrod Taylor, who I picked up, I think, like yesterday or the day before for free off of waivers, just because he, same thing, runs the ball a lot more and he's playing the Jets. But
okay, cool.
Not that there's a lot of good options in our league specifically. I just mean for anybody listening out there, I wouldn't be like trying to start Jimmy if you have any other kind of option.
Well, you're telling me when I did the swimming upstream bit this week, there was literally 12 starting quarterbacks left on the waiver wire. That's it. Otherwise, like if it would have been like if one person would have picked up one more, I would have either had to have an empty slot, or I would have had to put in a backup quarterback as a streaming option.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I mean that's I mean people are just really starting to stash quarterbacks at this point in the season.
You picked up Jimmy technically when our waivers ran at 2 a.m. on Thursday. I picked up Tyrod Taylor at 8 a.m. after waivers had cleared. I feel like Tyrod would be a better option than Jimmy for people out there this week listening. If you have to start one of the two, I think you go with the rushing upside and playing against a worse defense in the Jets than the Vikings. But again, there's not a whole lot of great options in general. So
okay, let's go over to Ryan's matchup over here. Kirk Cousins sliding in for Kyler Murray. How do you see Kirk Cousins doing this game?
He's been doing great lately. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. He seems like he's starting to hyper target Justin Jefferson more, which always turns things out well. I don't think that he'll have a bad game. My only concern is between Dalvin Cook and then the 49ers rushing attack, that this game is over a lot quicker and the time runs fast with the rushing. So I could see him having a good stat line at the end of the day, but maybe not amazing fantasy wise, just because he doesn't have the time. So don't love it. Don't hate it. I think he'll be solid in the middle.
Okay. Looking at Ryan's team, Myles Gaskin, Tyler Lockett, those players kind of make you cringe a little bit, but I mean, Myles Gaskin has been, Gaskin got it done last week. But he's been inconsistent at best. Definitely running back to Tyler Lockett again, up and down weeks. Last week he had a great week. The week before he had a terrible week, and then it's like back and forth. So you never know what you're going to get. So looking at Daryl Henderson though, that's kind of an interesting play. Daryl Henderson 3 weeks ago had a really, really fantastic game, but he's been quiet since then. How do you project Daryl Henderson to go out against the Green Bay defense this week?
I still think he's like a low-end wide running back one. He has been for pretty much the entirety of the year. I know he was injured those couple of weeks that he had rough games, so he wasn't getting like the full volume workload, but the Rams also were struggling too. Like Stafford had pretty down weeks those 2 weeks, so I expect it to be more back to normal once they can figure their stuff out. the Packers defense isn't bad by any means, but I think Henderson's probably his best running back option of the three, at least this week. Unfortunately, I just don't expect Ryan to be even close to the top six. Like, I expect even my team to probably have a better chance over his, just based on how his three players who've already gone did. Like, Waller did terribly. Beasley didn't have his typical high volume, and Zeke really didn't take over like people thought he would. So I think it's going to be tough for Ryan this week, and he might be one of those teams kind of sliding.
Okay, cool. That should pretty much be it for the matchups. I know we went in depth a little bit longer with that one, but there was a lot that we really needed to talk about with that. So it was good though. So I really appreciate all of your insight, Jack. That was awesome. Moving on, catching up in chat. Garlic says, "Let it be known I cleaned his entire apartment top to bottom during this pod." Jack, it's not that hard I'm sorry, not Jack. Garlic, it's not that hard to clean, a 1-bedroom apartment top to bottom. So there you go. So I don't know if it's a 1-bedroom or not. I'm just throwing shade on him. So
that, or you're just an amazing cleaner. I don't know.
Yeah,
it takes me a lot longer than that to clean my house. It takes multiple days of a weekend to finish the whole house for me. But teach me your secrets, Gar. Let the listeners know if you have any expert cleaning options.
Yeah, we'll have a cleaning pod.
Sure.
All right. How did you do in Deflate These Balls Champions League? Real quick. I think I won in Deflate These Balls and lost Monday night. In Champions.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's how you did? Okay.
Yeah, that's how I did.
I won and Deflate These Balls. It was a barn burner. I was against Garlic, who's was the current number one team overall and kind of the heavy favorite so far. So I beat him 135 to 120, which up until I had one final player go, it was pretty close. And nobody else, one other team in the entire 12-person league even broke 100. So, I mean, brutal for him, kind of BS when you're a top 3 scorer and you lose. But I really needed it. It was my 4th win in a row after I started the Deflate These Balls Dynasty League 1-6. So I am now 5-6 and currently 6th place. So if I can get lucky this week and win, I'm currently in the playoffs and I might actually stay there somehow.
Nice. I am fighting for the playoffs in Deflate These Balls.
You're right behind me, actually. Technically,
I need to win out these next 3 weeks for sure.
We have the same record, and we're a 2-point difference total in the standings. So, I mean, assuming some other people above us lose, we could both be in it. But otherwise, like you or I might be the final spot. We'll see. Yeah,
it's going to be definitely a nail biter. Right on. I joined a 4th league this week. There was a team in the Political Hacks League. Those are the guys over at the Fantasy Football Hacks. That guy runs 2 different podcasts. He has the Fantasy Football Hacks and the Political Hacks. You can check it out both on YouTube and on you can see it on twitch.tv. It is a 10-team Superflex league, so I've got 2 quarterbacks. I've also got, I don't think there's a defense and a kicker, but so instead of that, there's 2 additional flexes. So it's pretty nuts. I have a shot at the playoffs still. I believe I'm currently tied for 6th place. Yeah, I'm tied for 6th place out of 10. So I have a shot at making the playoffs there. So that'll be interesting to see if I can do that. 4 teams definitely seems like a lot, Jack. So I don't know how in the hell you're able to do all the fantasy teams that you're doing. But yeah, so shout out to the guys over at Political Hacks, Fantasy Football League. I'm glad I could join your guys' league and finish up the year. So I don't think I necessarily have anything else. Jack, do you have any parting words before I get into the announcements and we say goodbye?
My only other quick shout outs, number 1 in the Champions League, which I didn't mention that. Number 2 in best ball currently, hanging on despite my terrible team. And shout out to the other 6 people along with me that are still alive in Guillotine. It's very, very stressful and I hate it a lot, but it's a lot of fun. So hopefully one of you 6 has a down week this week and I can stay alive. But yeah, that's what we're looking forward to.
Right on. Okay. Guys, everybody, thank you so much for checking out our pod. We are all done. Again, if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, we are at 94. We lost a soldier. But yeah, if you guys like what you see, please follow us and get us to that goal of 100 subs. You can find us at www.anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod for all of your podcasting needs. You can also leave us a voicemail there. We love getting voicemails from you guys. You can check us out on Twitter and on Instagram. Our socials are in the description below. Also, make sure you join Discord. The link for Discord is in the description below. We'd like to thank again all of our donators who have been donating. You can go to www.streamlabs.com/thevictoriouspod, and I believe there is a link. That is the link to donate to our stream. Otherwise, you can definitely find that link as well in the show notes as well. Thank you, everybody. It's just been just a great, fantastic time broadcasting to you guys. So it's been just a ton of fun. So we are going to be wrapping up out of here. Jack, have a great rest of your Friday. And we will see you again here.
Or Saturday.
Or Saturday. We will definitely see you guys here next week. See you guys later.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you very much out there. I really do appreciate everything you guys have done. The numbers have been amazing over the last month. I can't thank you guys enough. It's just been so much fun. We are going to be back next week on Thursday. So be sure to check out the Discord, get your questions in, get your NFL pick'ems ready to go. Be thinking about if you want to do the NFL playoff fantasy mini game that we're going to be doing here when the NFL playoffs roll around once the regular fantasy season's over. So we still got a lot coming up here, even though we are going to be entering into the final home stretch of the regular fantasy football season here. So there is still a lot coming, a lot to listen to, a lot to watch us here on YouTube. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. I want to give a shout out to Garlic and Al. Thank you guys so much for being here and interacting with us today. We really do appreciate it. I also want to just shout out just people who have been getting us to the point where we're at right now. Follows, you know, there's Dubfire, there's the guys over at Political Hacks or the Fantasy Football Hacks. You know, there's Face of Squire over there. There's Jimbo Slice. You got Jaron. All those guys from over there have been great. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank those people enough for being regulars and just interacting with us. It really makes it a lot of fun. So I'm going to go maybe play some video games here for a little bit. So if anybody's around wants to play some video games, we can go do that. So yeah, we will catch you guys later, and hope you guys have a great rest of your holiday Thanksgiving weekend. We'll see you later, everybody. Peace out.